As a developer, I would never buy a land that is not zoned, because every area, every zoning, every vacant land, or any repurposing property, it's important for you to understand what it is that you're trying to do and what you're spending and what your expenses are. And what I have seen working very well for many young investors or beginners.
Excited about this because you're going to get a taste of what's going to actually happen. So today we have Ms. Luanda that's going to be telling us more about commercial real estate. She's an expert. Trust me when I do say that she's an expert in what she actually does. Ms. Luanda, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to all our guests. I was really excited on getting you on, Ms. Luanda, because when it comes to property investing, most of the time, it's either we had this conversation, we're looking at it from a perspective of owning an apartment or just owning a multi-let whereby you know that you've got two bachelors behind the house and then you're really excited. Whereas when we're really looking at value chain or how one can grow, it does get too commercial. So can we just really understand what really called you or what drove you into the commercial space, and what is, if we were to define the commercial space, how would you define it?
What drew me to the commercial space was actually from a friend, because he always kept pestering me, trying to figure out, how long are you going to do banking for? What's going to happen when you're tired of banking? Why don't you come and join commercial property? And I think my interest started building from that side, because he started showing me what my experience, like how much my banking experience will actually help to fast track me in the industry. So yes, I then decided I'm going to give it a try, and guess what? I fell in love with it firsthand.
How has it been since you dived deeper into commercial space? Has it been really exciting?
In the beginning, it's very weird because there's a certain way of doing things, and the culture is more like a boys' culture as well. And you literally have to adapt each and every moment that you speak into somebody. You realize that, oh my God, I think I'm slacking on this area. I need to know so much. And sometimes you think it's just a property, but you don't realize how much more there is to the property that you have to understand, so that you can be convincing to whoever the person that you are selling to or you want to sell their property for,
So I'm really excited about what you said. Like, you can't look at commercial without what you just said right now, the importance of the terminology, the importance of the numbers. And when it comes to commercial, we're speaking about real numbers. We're talking not nothing below 1 million. And one doesn't want to make that mistake. So there's something that always comes up when it comes to rezoning, right? Because sometimes you find out someone bought land and then they want to build about 24 bachelors. So when it comes to that, maybe if you can just, because now that looking at it in that way, it was a property investor who bought something for residential, and then sometimes it does happen without knowing, or it can be through ignorance, that one jumps into the commercial space. So what would you say is a big tip when it comes to the rezoning laws? Because I really feel that this is something that we really miss out on, and it does catch up with us later on.
Rezoning is a lengthy process. A lot of developers, they try to stay away from land, like vacant land that is not rezoned. So you have to understand all the nitty-gritties that actually like adds up to your costs, because it's got a lot of costs, got a lot of holding costs, because while you're rezoning, you still have to pay for the rates and taxes. And sometimes you have a vacant land that you're rezoning, you still need to bring bulk in. So there's a whole lot of figures that comes into the period that you have to stay with the piece of land that is not yielding any type of income, and yet you're paying to the municipality. So those are some of the things that you need to be very aware of, and ask a lot of questions, go to the municipality, find out how long is it going to take you. Also try to understand how long, like, are you going to be paying the services for, and those services, how much are they going to come up to? Because sometimes we try to thumbsuck or try to figure out what the cost may be. Try find out what the real costs are, so that you know exactly what it is that you're up against.
I like that example that you made. There was one property that had about 3 bachelors that we were looking at, and the agent was like, don't stress, guys, you can look at the neighboring houses and you get an understanding. And now when you're looking at the neighboring houses, it was going at about 600, only to find out that with this property that we were looking at in particular, the rates and taxes for that one alone were about 1 point something, close to 1.8. So that did really change the game in terms of should we go into this deal or not. So I like the fact that you did mention that it's a numbers game. We need to understand the costs that are involved with it when it comes to holding, because if it will be affecting my return on investment, I need to be aware of it.
Sis Luanda, people always fight us on this, right? They always fight us on this. And I mean, I guess you can give us clarity, or maybe you're on our side or their side, right? Now, people are always saying that buy land, develop the land, right? Now, there's this fight between buying land and developing land, or buying a property that's already existing and you just take over the cash flow that comes with it, right? So, based on your experience, right, if you did have the cash right now, would you rather buy land, develop it, rezone, go through the whole process of rezoning and everything that comes with it, and then develop the property or the land? Or would you rather buy an existing structure that has already been working and you just need to do minor touches to make it 100%?
As a developer, I would never buy a land that is not zoned, because you can't develop on it. First of all, you have to find out what you can actually build on that piece of land. So that's why it's important to have the rezoning before you start developing, because what if you develop something that is not allowed? For instance, I have a piece of land right now that I'm currently selling, and it is in Soweto. It is zoned as residential 3. I've got retail people who are looking at it, but the question is, what would a retail company do with the residential property, because they still need to rezone it. If you don't do residential, you have to do institutional. So one of the things that I've come to learn is that sometimes the rezoning speaks directly to the community and where the land is actually located. If the land is not on a national road, you cannot develop your retail companies, because now you are drawing all the traffic from the national roads and you're bringing it into the closed location. So sometimes those residential people, they have funerals. Now you've got people trying to come to your shopping mall. So it becomes chaos when it's a Saturday. So those are some of the things that you have to really be clear. If you want to rezone it, just find out also how best you can redirect traffic, so that if the residents have got events that they want to run with, because obviously if it's a residential area, they have the right, it's their communal area. So if you're bringing a retail outlet like a shopping center, like bring Maponya Mall into a closed knit residential property, it becomes a problem for access. So you have to, there's a lot of things that you have to pay attention to.
Yes, Sis Luanda, you spoke about something, right? You said residential 3. So to the people who don't know what residential 3 is, can you please just explain what residential 3 is?
So residential 3 is if you can build at least 3 stories of commercial building. So you can't go higher than 3 stories.
So, Sis Luanda, I've got an interesting question. Like, one of our friends invited us, so they were selling a piece of land and then they said that it's for commercial. So when what the uncle said in terms of how they got to that price, because already they had the commercial rights to it, and then how they got to the price, they said that because it's 6,000 meters squared, if you were to look at in that area, because in the area there's houses, so the houses are about 500 meters squared. So what he was saying is that if you were to look at the houses, and then which is 500 meters squared versus their land, which is 6,000, you'd get 12 houses. And then he was like, to buy each house in that area or to buy land in that area, we are looking at 400,000. So how they got to the price, they said 12,000, 12 properties multiplied by 400,000, which is 4.8. Would you say that that is the correct way to valuing your land?
Zoning, it helps you get to those types of calculations. In that area, it will tell you can only build a household of this size. And with this size, when you look at the comparable prices within the area, they actually guide you that how much is a property sold per square meter in the area. So your guidance, in fact, the guidance is actually informed a lot by what you find in that area and how it is calculated. I mean, when you buy vacant land, you must remember that that vacant land, you have services which are actually on the side, but they tell you, oh, you can actually pull it in. So that too is taken into account, because now you have to build whatever bulk per rate for each and every 500 square meters. And that's how, because that's a cost on its own. So that's why sometimes, having to be precise with the figures, you have to be comfortable making your calculations. That's why it's also important to speak to developers so that you are very well informed in terms of making those decisions. Because it's easy for somebody who does not know what that technical vocab means. But if you take that technical vocab to an expert, it's easier for them to advise you and say, no, these people are playing you, or yes, they mean very well, or you can actually say, okay, fine, you understand what your affordability is. So yeah, I think research is very important when it comes to development. Every area, every zoning, every vacant land, or any repurposing property, it's important for you to understand what it is that you're trying to do and what you're spending and what your expenses are.
No, Sis Luanda, apologies that we went totally off script, because I know that we had actually prepared questions for this and it ended up going a different way. However, I think these are the most important things that people are really asking themselves before purchasing properties. And some of them, they're asking themselves after purchasing a property. Now it's late by that time. So now these questions are the questions that we actually encounter because we have one-on-ones with the client. This is really valuable. So now I wanted to know, right? I saw a video of someone saying that they purchased land and they went through the whole rezoning process and they were able to sell the land. The land did appreciate because of the zoning. Does that really happen whereby someone purchases land and then, say for instance, they purchase land as a residential and they're able to go through the whole zoning thing and it goes to residential 3? Does that increase the value of the land or not?
It does. It does, because remember those 500 square meters. Now you can build those 500 square meters on a 5,000 square meter land, but you can build them 3 floors. So which means it multiplies.
No, thank you. Thanks a lot, Sis Luanda. As we did mention that, as you could see today, that when it comes to property investing, there's so much that goes into it. And even when we're looking at the commercial space, it's really interesting. And if you have not purchased your ticket, it's going to be bad, because on the 3rd of December in Randburg, we'll be hosting a property workshop whereby Ms. Luanda will be joining us. We'll be really talking more about commercial. So if you are in the commercial space and you're looking for a commercial property, best make sure that you are there, you save the date, and you don't miss out on this one.
Sis Luanda, before we close off this video, right, do you have any last words that you'd want to tell people that, guys, please be aware of this, or guys, there's an opportunity here, just go for it right now?
I would say for young investors or beginners, please try by all means to stick to your budget in terms of the investment that you want to do. And what I have seen working very well for many young investors or beginners is student housing. Student housing has got a lot of potential, because you can start small and grow to, you can escalate it to however much you believe you can actually get to. And you can actually watch it as it grows. It's not something that you can do overnight. Social housing is also one of them. You can never say there's enough residential properties for the people in the country. We see a lot of people immigrating, migrating, doing all of those things. So residential is very important. The government is struggling to meet their quota in terms of residents. Mini industrial units, I would say that is a perfect way to go, because with many industrial units, you can start anywhere from at least 2 million, 2.5 million. If you find the right property, if you find the right tenant, that is something that I would actually advise people to do. In fact, We'll discuss a lot more on the 3rd of December. Let us not give away everything. And I look forward to seeing you guys there.
Okay. No, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. I like what you did over there. So purchase your ticket right now. So that you don't miss out, Wanda. I'm really excited about this. I'll be having my notepad.
See us face to face, right?
Yes.
And you can ask all the questions that they want to.
Of course. I'm also bringing my notepad because I know that I'm going to learn a lot.
And also a calculator, of course. Never leave your calculator. Invest like a pro.
But
with
no,
Nama.